My name is Laekan Zea Kemp, and you can find me at my website, laekanzeakemp.com. That's LaekanZeakemp. And I'm a Chicana Kidlit author living in Austin, Texas. I'm a graduate of Texas Tech University and the University of North Texas. And I actually almost became a librarian myself before I ultimately made the decision to teach high school ESL. But shelving library books was actually my first job and one that I returned to while attending grad school. As a writer, I have three very specific objectives when it comes to storytelling: to make people laugh, cry, and crave Mexican food. My work celebrates Chicano grit, resilience, creativity, and joy, while also exploring themes of identity and mental health. And my debut novel, Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet, was released by Little Brown Young Readers just a few weeks ago on April 6th. It's a young adult contemporary romance told in two voices about the power of family, first love, and finding where you belong, set in a Mexican restaurant that is the heart of a fiercely loyal Chicano community. So Penn is an aspiring pastry chef who dreams of continuing her father's cooking legacy despite her parents having different plans. And Xander is living undocumented with his abuelo, both of them estranged from Xander's father, who he is desperate to find. When Xander starts working at Penn's family restaurant, their worlds collide, but when both the restaurant and Xander's immigrant status are threatened, he and Penn must work together to save the place they both call home. And I'm so excited to share that so far, Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet has received 2-starred reviews from Kirkus and Publishers Weekly. Kirkus describes Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet as a stellar debut that offers a cathartic take on a relationship between a father and daughter. And Publishers Weekly says, much like Elizabeth Acevedo's With the Fire on High, Kemp has created a truly special combination of deliciously described food, expressive prose, and dreamy romance. This story explores complicated parent-child relationships, the beauty of found families, the impact of gentrification on communities of color, how our mental health journeys do not determine our potential, and how each of us can leverage our passions in order to serve our communities. But more than anything, this story is a love letter to my Chicano community. And through this story about a girl torn between her family and her future, and a boy torn between his abuelo, who has raised him like a son, and the father he still yearns for, I hope that Chicano and Latino readers come away from the book feeling a deep sense of pride. I want them to see the most beautiful and powerful parts of our community reflected back at them. The way we care for each other, the way we problem solve, the way we shoulder one another's pain and share in one another's successes. We are very much a community that moves and grieves and dreams together. And I want Latino readers to come away being reminded of how beautiful of a legacy that is, and that it's one we need to make sure we preserve. Writing these stories about Mexican and Chicano identity is my attempt at doing just that. But there are also so many opportunities for readers outside of the Chicano community to connect with these characters. We all share a deep desire for connection. We all want to be accepted for who we really are. And who doesn't love a good taco? If the focus on food in the book has piqued your interest, you can find recipe cards for some of Penn's signature dishes and desserts on my website, laekanzeakemp.com. In my media kit, you'll also find a video tutorial for my family's menudo recipe. And on thenovel.com, you can find my cocada recipe and a photo of the finished product. I highly suggest making these recipes before you begin reading, or at least having some kind of snack nearby, because I promise you will be hungry. In addition to the recipes on my website, there's also a link to download the instrumental soundtrack for Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet. There's no lyrics, just music, so you can play it in the background as you read, and each song represents a special character or moment from the book. In addition to my debut novel, I have other works exploring similar themes and topics coming from Little Brown Young Readers in 2022 and beyond. First up is a companion novel to Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet titled Heartbreak Symphony. It's described as Clap When You Land meets On the Come Up in a heart-gripping story about navigating first love and overcoming grief through the power of music. Next up is the first book in what I hope will grow into a new middle grade series, tentatively titled Omega the Empath and the Legend of La Lechuza. It's about a girl named Omega who comes from a very magical family. They live in a small town in Texas where trees can read minds, cats have way more than 9 lives, and the ghosts are more obnoxious than the living. Each book focuses on a different monster from Mexican and Chicano folklore, and the first book focuses on my favorite monster, La Lechuza, who is a witch with the power to transform herself into an owl. I also have some unannounced picture books forthcoming, the first of which is about a little girl whose grandmother helps her make a traditional Mexican flower crown for her birthday. They spend the morning in her garden, selecting flowers that hold special significance for each of them, before fastening them into una corona that helps them feel rooted in their family history and identities. Featuring mentions of chocolate cosmos, bluebonnets, and birds of paradise, I can only imagine how breathtakingly beautiful those illustrations are going to be, and I can't wait to give you a sneak peek. As you can probably tell, writing about my identity and my culture is extremely important to me, which is why I'm so grateful for this 10-minute opportunity to introduce myself to so many Texas librarians. I was born and raised here in Texas, and my family has lived here for 4 generations. But in that time, as a student in Texas public schools, I never had the opportunity to read a book featuring Latino characters like me. The first time I read an assigned text featuring a protagonist of color was my second semester of my senior year in high school, when my English teacher assigned The Kite Runner. So as a former Texas public school student, as well as a former English teacher, I know that there are young people out there who've grown up within our very unique Tejano Chicano culture who have never seen themselves in a book. Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet is my heartfelt attempt to change that. So for those librarians and educators out there who choose to add my book to your collections, thank you so much. The idea that this book might find its way into the hands of the young people who need it the most means the world to me. I also want to mention that I'm currently looking for opportunities to connect with young readers and writers. So if your school or library has a YA book club, I'd love to meet your students and patrons via Zoom chat. There's a form on my website for school visits as well as book club visits. So whether you're reading the book with family and friends or as part of a school or community program, I would love to attend and answer any questions you may have. And if you run a creative writing class or program, I'd love to pop in and encourage your writers and answer any questions they may have about craft or the publishing process. I'm incredibly passionate about helping young marginalized writers, especially fellow BIPOC and Latinx writers, navigate their way through this industry, which is why I love answering their questions, sharing what I've learned, and doing whatever I can to break down those informational barriers that keep so many marginalized authors out of traditional publishing. One of the ways I do this work is through a marketing collective I belong to called Las Musas. We're a collective of women and non-binary Latinx kidlit authors, and our mission is to spotlight the new contributions of our members in the evolving canon of children's literature, as well as to celebrate the diversity of voice, experience, and power in our communities. If you're looking for more books by Latinx authors about the Latinx community, the Las Musas website is a great place to start. We are also so proud to have launched the first ever Latinx Kidlit Book Festival, which took place last December, and which will take place again virtually on Thursday, December 9th and Friday, December 10th. So students from all over the country can tune in from their classrooms. And if you sat through this entire presentation, thank you so much for taking the time to hear a little bit about me and my work. I'm so excited to connect with you all, and I hope you'll find me on social media at Laekan Zea Kemp on both Twitter and Instagram, or on my website, laekanzeakemp.com. And if you saw some of my tweets earlier about a book club kit that I've put together specifically for librarians, you can enter to win that, which includes 5 signed copies of Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet, plus some additional goodies to pair with your reading of the book. And you can sign up for my newsletter to be entered to win that. After Friday's presentation, I'll be sending out a form for this librarian exclusive giveaway and announcing the winner shortly after. I look forward to hearing about your community in student book clubs and creative writing groups, and I hope we'll be in touch very soon. Thank you.